In this video, I'm going to show you how to gather data about the locations, number of stores and property that each of them has, each of the franchise stores. Yes, we do have, if you're thinking about it, we do have some information here, but I found that this information is not exactly the most accurate information that we can get. So I would like to gather information about that from the 10 case, and this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to give you the example of dunking, but there is other ways of gathering it, and you'll have to be a little bit more analytical and digging deeper into data. So let's go with this one first, and then I'm going to show you some examples and how to find data in other 10Ks, okay? So let's go with Dunkin' Donuts. This is a 10K of Dunkin' Donuts, and we're going to do a search for locations, okay? There are 26 matches of the word locations, and here when you see our brands, Dunkin' Donuts United States, that's not what we're looking for. What we are looking for, it's more of a table, but let's go back to the previous one. If you read this carefully, it will say some information, it will give some information and some numbers, but you know, it's interesting that it says here Dunkin' Donuts points of distribution, that's how they call them, points of distribution, grew from 4,021 on August 31st, 2013 to 7,677. This is a piece of data we might use, but let's see if we find it in a different way, better state, okay? Let's keep on searching every time locations shows up, and at some point we're going to have something discussing the number of locations, like here. Remember that item 1A in many cases was risk factors, so you were working with that before. Item 1B is unresolved staff comments. Item 2 in this case is properties. That's what we're looking for, okay? And here is a breakout of how many properties Dunkin' Donuts has. And fun enough, they have two brands under this 10K. One of them is Dunkin' and the other one is Baskin Robbins. I am fine with collecting both of them together and putting them in one place. And so I created a row for total United States locations. Okay, and here I added a note. How you add a note? You do insert note. It's not as a comment, because the comment you can come back later and resolve, and it will show here the number of comments that are unresolved, right? That is for like an ongoing discussion. A note is something that will remain there because it's important to read it from now on in the spreadsheet. So in that case, if you see what I input there is 7,677 plus 2467, and if you check the numbers are exactly this, 7648 Dunkin' Donuts United States, 7648 7648 plus 2467 plus 24, what happened here? I'm not matching the right numbers. Baskin Robbins, 2460. Okay, making a correction. Didn't like the format I used. That's much better. 10,108. And now let's gonna pick up the information about the international locations. That's 3,181 plus 4833. Let's see if I did that one correctly. 3,181, 4833. Perfect. So combined, they give you 18,122. And that's what should be there. It should be 108 plus 7,8014. Okay. Now the next step is to see if we can get how many they own directly, because it happens to a lot of franchisors that some restaurants they own directly, and the rest they franchise. Some 10Ks will have their breakout, some others will not. And in this case, it is here. So after you find the item where this is being discussed, I ask you to go ahead and read a little bit about what it says up here, and you will see that here at the same time it discusses how many of this uh, locations are owned by the company and how many are not. And let's check if the verbiage says the same. So how many locations do they own and how many locations they franchise? The text here says that they own 98 properties and they lease 911. They're making a distinction between ownership of the real estate and leasing the real estate. From the point of view of our research, both of them are combined. I think there is a difference between the difference I am interested on is how many they manage directly and how many a franchisor manages. Okay, so it's in this case will be 911 plus 98. Then they say here that the remaining balance of restaurants selling our products are situated on real property owned by franchisees or leased directly by franchisees. So it is true that the difference between 911 plus 98 is our franchised locations. Let's see what the rest of the text says. If you read carefully this paragraph, there seems not to be a lot of much more information regarding how many restaurants they operate directly and how many restaurants they franchise. So all we're going to try to do is say how many they directly manage is 98 plus 911. We're going to put that information, company managed, let's say, and not owned. Franchisees manage it, okay? So the distinction we want is basically these two, okay? It's 1009, and everything else, if we want to do a subtraction, is basically, franchised. Okay, we keep the formatting of all numbers. So here in the case, as we did with the previous one, we can insert a comment where we say, to make it easier to understand that 98 is real estate owned, plus 911 is real estate leased. Okay? So with that, in the future, it's possible to come to this cell and say, oh, that is why it's 98 plus 911. The 10K is breaking it up into 98 real estate owned and 911 real estate leased. Okay, and this is calculated. Now, here comes this one, Dunkin' Donuts, I have completed. And if you go to the other ones, if you start by, suppose, Sonic, the first one, or Jack in the Box, or whatever you start, it might be, you might find it in different places. And here in the case of, I think this is Denny's, you will find it as of unit activity. And in this case, they are comparing it to 2012. But this is what we're looking for, company restaurants. These are the ones that Denny's operates directly. And these are the franchised locations. Now they are giving us more information here. It's very interesting because we're also interested in gathering that data, and I haven't walked you through how you will find this information in Dunkin's, but let me show you for Denny's. So we do have how many company run restaurants were at the end of this period, which is December 2005, December 25th, 2013, right? And for Denny's, that is the date. That's for 2000. I'm sorry, what I'm looking at. Denny's Looking at Denny's, Denny's is here. Okay, December 25, 2013. So if we go to the total number of locations company managed, that's the number 163. And then we go back to that number, and at the end of the period, the ones that were franchised were 1537. So you have those two numbers, and now we know that the total number of restaurants is the sum of those two. We can add in there, it's 1700. Funny enough, it's pretty comparable to what the number that we have for Denny's in the franchisor sheet, and it says, in the sheet says 1696. So it's pretty close, right? But we're going to go with information that the 10Ks provide. Now, is there a breakout between United States and international? You can look up that information around here. I haven't seen it, but you can take a look. Now, what is very interesting is to see that they are telling us how many units were acquired, how many units were opened. They didn't open one unit during 2013, but they did open 46 units, and 46 units during 2013 that were franchise units. So with that, I want you to include that number here, and we'll call them simply openings in 2013, and we're going to call this projected openings in 2014 and then 2015, in case we can find that information. It's very important because in the case of when I'm going to end up talking to them, before talking to them, I'll be able to know what is the speed of growth that they are having, right? If this company is only opening 46 units out of 1,500, it's fairly it's fairly easy to calculate that it's not a lot of growth. You see, it's roughly 3% of growth. I'm going to calculate that by myself eventually. So you only need to gather that information. I have seen others discussing similar data, and here, for example, in the overview, and see that this is a different section. This is the management and discussion. This management, discussion, and analysis. This is also called MD&A. And it's a very important place where it's the only place in the 10K where you will hear the manager's voice saying this is what's going to happen with the company. So the same way that we saw section 2 in Dunking talking about properties and listing the number of properties for existing properties, we didn't spend a lot of time here in Dunking looking for future openings. That's your task. And we saw unit activity here in Denny's. Now in the case of Buffalo Wild Wings, it is in a different section. So you'll have to be looking up those different locations in each 10K. Here they have the total of restaurants that are company owned, 434. Buffalo, where's Buffalo? Here, Buffalo Wings, 434. And then they show franchised an additional 558, right? So what I want you to remember is that every 10K has the data in a different place. It's up to you to find it, see where it is, see how much information you can get about how many did they open in 2013 if they are including that information, versus how many they are maybe they are including how many they are projecting to open in 14 and how many they are projecting to open in 15. I do know different 10Ks show different pieces of information. See how much you can gather and let me know if you have questions. Thank you.